The war had ended, but peace had not come. The planet Zerathia was dying slowly under a sky that no longer glowed with its old golden light. Once known for its gardens, shining towers, and strong people, the planet now looked like a shadow of what it used to be. Crops refused to grow, rivers had turned dry, and even the wind carried the taste of dust. Inside the royal palace, the alien king sat on his cold throne, his face heavy with worry. His people were starving. Trade routes had been destroyed, and the storms of radiation had poisoned their food supplies. His council had begged him to surrender to despair, but the king refused. He had one reason to fight still: his daughter, Princess Lyra. Princess Lyra was the light of the kingdom. Her skin once shimmered like moonlit silver, and her hair flowed like threads of starlight. But now even her beauty had faded under the weight of hunger. Her once bright eyes had dimmed, and her graceful steps had turned weak. Still she smiled for her people. Every day she walked among them, touching the sick, comforting the hungry, and promising that help would come. But no help came. The aliens had lost hope in everyone, especially in the humans. To them, humans were wild, unpredictable, greedy. The war had shown them the dark side of mankind. So when a human ship appeared in their skies one quiet morning, the people of Zerathia gathered in fear and anger. The king stood at his balcony, his voice echoing through the palace. "Why are they here?" he demanded. "Have they come to mock our weakness?" The guards reported that it was not a warship. It was a small craft, carrying supplies and a few humans wearing white suits. They said they came in peace. Among them was Captain Ethan Cole, a man from Earth's aid organization. His face was rough with travel and his eyes tired but kind. He had seen many dying worlds, but nothing prepared him for the sight before him: the starving people, the silent streets, and the princess trying to smile through her pain. When Ethan was brought before the throne, he bowed respectfully. "Your Majesty," he said through a small translator on his shoulder, "I am here to help. I bring food and medicine from Earth. Please allow me to serve your people." The alien king looked at him with cold suspicion. "Human food cannot feed us," he said bitterly. "Our bodies are different." "Your kindness is useless," Ethan did not argue. He simply looked at Princess Lyra, who stood beside her father. Her eyes met his, and for a moment time stopped. He saw not just an alien princess, but a young woman exhausted by loss and responsibility. And she saw in him not a human enemy, but a spark of hope. "I will test it," Lyra said softly, surprising everyone. "If it harms me, then you may drive them away. But if it helps, then maybe the humans have changed." The court gasped, but the king nodded slowly. "So be it." Ethan opened a small container and revealed a simple loaf of fresh earth bread. It was golden brown, still warm, and the air filled with its soft, sweet smell. The aliens had never smelled anything like it. Lyra took a small piece in her trembling hand. The texture was strange, soft, warm, and alive with scent. She placed it carefully in her mouth. For a moment, nothing happened. Then warmth spread through her chest. Her eyes widened. It was not only food, it was comfort, memory, and life all at once. Tears formed in her eyes as she looked at Ethan. "It's beautiful," she whispered. Around the hall, the aliens began to murmur in disbelief. The king's face softened for the first time in months. Ethan smiled gently. "It's called bread," he said. "On Earth, we share it when we want to remind each other that we're not alone." And in that moment, the starving princess realized something she had forgotten for a long time: that kindness could feed the soul, even before it fed the body. That night, for the first time in many months, the palace was filled with a scent of hope. The next morning, the halls of the palace were quieter than ever. Everyone waited for news about the princess. Some feared that the human food might have poisoned her, while others whispered that she had finally found something powerful enough to heal. When Princess Lyra entered the throne room, her steps were still slow, but her face looked different. There was color in her cheeks again. Her eyes had a gentle shine, and even her voice carried a bit of strength. The alien king rose from his seat in surprise. "Lyra," he said softly, "are you—" "Well," she smiled faintly. "Father, the food did not harm me. It helped." "I feel alive again." A wave of murmurs filled the room. For the first time in many months, the people saw their princess smile, not out of duty, but from genuine warmth. Captain Ethan stood quietly near the door, his uniform covered in dust. He did not expect praise, but when Lyra turned to him, her expression was full of gratitude. "You brought more than food," she said gently. "You brought hope," Ethan bowed. "I only shared what my people have learned, Princess. On Earth, when everything feels broken, we bake bread. It reminds us that simple things can still bring life." Lyra stepped closer, curious. How does something so simple carry such power? Ethan smiled, a little shy. "Because we make it with care. You take something small, flour, water, warmth, and turn it into something that feeds everyone. Maybe life is the same way." The king listened silently, watching his daughter's fascination. For years he had taught her the strength of a ruler was in power and control. Yet here she stood, amazed by something as small as a loaf of bread. Later that day, Ethan walked with Lyra through the ruined gardens behind the palace. The soil was dry and cracked, and the once bright flowers had withered into dust. She looked around sadly. "This was my favorite place," she whispered. "When I was a child, I would come here to smell the flowers. Now, there is nothing left." Ethan knelt and touched the ground. Maybe it just needs a second chance. He took a small packet from his bag. Inside were tiny brown seeds. "What are those?" Lyra asked. "Wheat seeds," Ethan explained. "The same grain that made the bread you tasted. They can grow almost anywhere if given a little care." Lyra looked doubtful. "Our soil is weak. It cannot even feed our native plants." "Then let's give it something new," Ethan said. "Something from Earth. Maybe your world just needs a little humanity." The princess hesitated, then knelt beside him. Together they pressed the seeds into the dirt. Her slender silver fingers brushed against his rough human hands for just a second, and the touch made her heart beat faster. "Why do you humans try so hard to help others?" she asked softly. "Even when the others do not trust you?" Ethan looked up at the dull purple sky. "Because once we were the ones who needed help. We learned that kindness has no species." His words stayed in her mind long after he left the garden. That night she looked out her window and saw the stars. For the first time they didn't seem cold or distant. They seemed alive, like they were watching her. Over the next few days, Ethan worked beside the royal scientists to find ways to adapt human food to alien biology. He taught them how to make simple meals, soups, stews, and bread using local plants and earth spices. Lyra was always there, learning everything she could. Her laughter began to return. She would tease Ethan about the strange names of earth food: spaghetti, pancakes, and chocolate. Ethan would smile, enjoying how her curiosity made her glow again. One evening, as the two of them sat beside the dying garden, the first small sprout broke through the cracked soil. A green stem, thin but alive. Lyra gasped, her hand covering her mouth. "It grew." Ethan chuckled softly. "It's just a beginning. But beginnings are powerful." The princess looked at the tiny plant with tears in her eyes. "Then maybe there's hope for us yet." The stars above shone brighter that night, as if the universe itself was smiling upon the friendship that had just begun. A fragile bond between a dying princess and a human who carried the warmth of 1,000 heart's days slowly turned into weeks, and the palace began to feel alive again. The smell of baked bread drifted through its long, empty halls, mixing with the faint scent of hope. People whispered about the miracle food brought by the human. Children who once cried from hunger now smiled again, their bellies warm and full. And at the center of this change were two people, Princess Lyra and Captain Ethan Cole. Every morning, they met in the garden to tend to the small patch of green they had planted together. The little wheat plants swayed gently in the alien wind, fragile yet full of promise. Each new sprout felt like a victory. Lyra had never worked with her hands before. Royal life had kept her far from the dirt and sweat of labor. But now she found peace in it. The soft soil between her fingers, the sunlight on her face, it made her feel alive again. Ethan would watch her, smiling quietly as she hummed a soft tune. "You know," he said one morning, "on Earth people bake bread for celebration. It's something we share on every happy day." Lyra smiled, her eyes soft. "Then we must bake again soon. My people have not had a reason to celebrate in a long time." Ethan chuckled. "We'll make sure they do." As the days passed, Lyra began to learn more about human ways. Ethan taught her how to mix ingredients, how to knead the dough, and how to wait patiently as the bread rose. She loved the warmth of the oven, the smell of the golden crust, and the way the soft loaf felt between her hands. Once, as she watched Ethan pull the bread from the oven, she said quietly, "Your people may not have wings or telepathy like ours, But you create wonders with your hearts. Ethan looked at her surprised. And your people have survived things that would break us, he replied. Maybe that's your wonder. Their friendship deepened with each passing day. Lyra started to laugh again, soft musical laughter that filled the halls. Ethan often caught himself smiling whenever she spoke. There was something in her voice, something warm and gentle that reminded him why he had joined the mission, to make life better, even in the darkest corners of the galaxy. But not everyone shared their joy. Some of the alien courtiers watched with suspicion. The human is changing her, they whispered. The princess spends too much time with him. Lyra ignored their words, but deep inside a small fear grew. She knew her father loved her, but he also feared losing control of his kingdom. If he thought her friendship with Ethan was a danger, he might send the human away. One evening, as the two of them sat under the glowing alien moon, she spoke softly. Do you ever think about leaving, Ethan? He looked up from the bread he was slicing. Leaving? Not yet. Not until your people can feed themselves. She smiled sadly. When that day comes, will you still stay? Ethan was quiet for a moment. I go where I'm needed, princess. But I'll never forget this place. Or you. Her chest tightened at his words. She wanted to say something, anything, to keep him near. But before she could, a sound broke the silence. A cheer from the far side of the garden. A group of children had come running, waving their small hands. Princess! Princess, they cried. The wheat, it's ready. Lyra rose quickly, her eyes wide. Together, she and Ethan hurried to the field. Under the soft purple sky, the golden crop swayed gently. It was the first harvest in years. Tears filled her eyes as she knelt to touch the golden heads of grain. It's beautiful, she whispered. Our first food, our new beginning. Ethan placed a hand on her shoulder. You see? Hope grows anywhere it's planted. That night, the palace baked more bread than ever before. The air was filled with laughter, light, and the sound of people singing again. And as Princess Lyra looked around at her people, her heart whispered a silent truth, that this simple human had not just fed her body. He had awakened her soul. Would you like me to continue with part 4, 650? Words. Where the growing bond faces the days of joy did not last forever, as the wheat fields spread and the smell of warm bread filled the kingdom. Whispers began to rise in the shadows of the palace. Not everyone was happy with the human's presence. Some of the alien generals saw Ethan as a danger, a foreigner whose kindness had made the princess forget her royal duty. The human makes her soft, they murmured. He clouds her judgment. The people look at him with more hope than they do at their own king. The alien king tried to ignore the rumors, but they began to eat at his heart. He had seen the way his daughter smiled at the human. He had seen her eyes shine whenever Ethan entered the room. It was not just friendship anymore, it was something deeper, something he feared could tear his kingdom apart. One evening, the king called for his daughter. The throne room was silent when Lyra entered. Her silver hair shone faintly in the dim light, and she bowed gently before him. You called for me, father? The king's voice was calm but cold. Yes, my child. I have watched you grow strong again. Your spirit has returned and your people live once more. But tell me, was it the food that saved you, or the human who brought it? Lyra looked at him, unsure what to say. It was both, she said softly. The food gave us strength, but his kindness gave us courage. The king's eyes hardened. Courage or weakness? You have begun to forget who you are, Lyra. You are the princess of Zarathia, not some student of human ways. Our people look to you to guide them, not to follow an alien's lead. Her voice trembled as she replied, Ethan is not just a human, father. He gave us life when no one else would. He taught me that compassion is not weakness, it is power. The king rose from his throne, his voice rising with anger. Power does not come from compassion. Power is control, it is fear, it is strength. Do not be blinded by a human's charm. Tears gathered in her eyes. You are wrong. You rule through fear, but he gave through love. Which one truly saved our people? The king turned away, his heart torn between pride and truth. Finally, he spoke in a heavy voice. Enough. The human will leave this world tomorrow. His mission is complete. Lyra's heart stopped. Leave? But the harvest, our new fields, he must stay to teach us more. The king shook his head. Our scientists can handle the rest. I will not let my daughter be ruled by her emotions. That night, the palace was heavy with silence. Lyra walked through the empty corridors, her mind filled with confusion and pain. She found Ethan in the small kitchen where he often baked late into the night. He was packing his small bag, his face calm but tired. "So it's true," she said quietly. "You're leaving." Ethan looked up. "Your father ordered it. I can't stay if it causes trouble for you." Her voice broke. "But I don't want you to go. My people need you." "I need you," he smiled softly. "You don't need me anymore, Lyra. You've learned everything. You've become stronger than you know." Tears ran down her silver cheeks. "It's not about strength," she whispered. "It's about what you make me feel. Hope, warmth, life." Ethan stepped closer and gently wiped her tears. "Then keep that feeling alive. Let it guide you. You don't need a human to remind you of your own light." She wanted to speak, to ask him to stay, but words failed her. He placed a small loaf of bread in her hands. "For you," he said softly. "Whenever you feel alone, bake this again. It will remind you that you are never truly alone." The next morning, as the human ship rose into the gray sky, Lyra stood at the balcony, her heart heavy with loss. The golden fields below swayed gently, whispering with the wind. And though she couldn't see him anymore, she could still feel his warmth in every breath she took, in every grain of wheat, in every loaf of bread that rose with life. But deep in her heart, she also knew. The story between them was not over yet. The human ship had disappeared beyond the clouds, leaving behind a silence that felt too heavy to bear. For days, the princess wandered the palace gardens alone. Every step reminded her of Ethan, his voice, his laughter, the warmth of his eyes. The smell of baked bread still lingered in the air, but to her it felt like a memory of something she could never touch again. The alien king tried to comfort her. He saw the sadness in her eyes, the way she forced herself to smile for her people. "My daughter," he said gently one morning, "I did what I thought was right." The human's presence was dangerous. Lyra turned toward him, her voice quiet but strong. "Dangerous?" "He saved us. He gave us a second chance to live." "You saw the truth, Father, you just didn't want to admit it." The king sighed deeply. "Perhaps. But I cannot undo what has been done. What matters now is that our people are alive. The seeds he left behind will feed them." Lyra nodded but said nothing more. Inside, she promised herself one thing. If Ethan could not return, she would carry on his work. She would make sure his kindness never faded from her world. She began spending every waking hour in the fields. The palace guards and servants watched in awe as their princess, once delicate and royal, now worked beside farmers and children. Her hands grew rough from labor, her once silky robes now simple and stained with soil. Yet there was pride in her eyes, a quiet fire that refused to die. "Remember what the humans said," she told them. "Hope grows where you plant it. Feed the land and it will feed you." The people listened. They worked harder than ever. The first true harvest came months later, fields of golden wheat stretching as far as the eye could see. For the first time in years, laughter returned to the kingdom. Children played among the grain, and the scent of fresh bread filled every home. The alien king stood on his balcony, watching his daughter lead the people with grace and strength. His heart softened. He realized that the human had not stolen her spirit. He had awakened it. One afternoon, Lyra visited the same garden where she and Ethan had planted the first seeds. It was now full of life, tall wheat, green herbs, and small colorful flowers. She sat on the stone bench where they once talked and closed her eyes. The wind brushed her hair gently. As if whispering his name, she remembered his words. "You don't need me anymore. Lyra, you've become stronger than you know." A small smile touched her lips. "You were wrong, Ethan," she whispered to the air. "I still need you. Not to guide me, but to remind me of what I'm fighting for." That evening, she gathered the people in the main square. In her hands, she carried a basket filled with bread. The setting sun bathed her silver skin in gold as she spoke to her people. "This bread is more than food," she said softly. "It is a promise that we will never forget the one who showed us kindness when we had nothing left. A human came from across the stars to teach us how to live again. Let every meal we share remind us of that gift." The crowd bowed their heads in silence. Some wept. Others smiled through tears. As the first stars appeared in the sky, Lyra looked up. "Somewhere out there," she whispered. "You're watching us, aren't you? I hope you know that your gift saved not just our bodies, but our hearts." She felt the wind again, warmer this time, wrapping around her like a soft embrace. That night, she couldn't sleep. She sat by her window staring at the sky, A part of her believed Ethan was still out there, maybe on another world helping others like her, but deep inside she wished he would come back. Not as a savior, not as a hero, but as a friend. As the twin moons rose over the golden fields, the princess smiled through her tears. Her people were alive. The famine had ended, and though the human was gone, his warmth still lived on. In every heart that remembered his kindness, in every loaf of bread that baked in the ovens of Zarathia, and in the love that quietly bloomed in her heart. Months passed, and the kingdom of Zarathia began to bloom again. The once barren fields were now golden seas of wheat, and gardens sprouted with green herbs and bright flowers. The scent of freshly baked bread drifted through the streets, and children ran freely, laughing and playing. The famine that had once threatened the kingdom was finally over. Princess Lyra had grown stronger, wiser, and more radiant with each passing day. She moved among her people with grace and care, teaching them the lessons Ethan had left behind. Every loaf of bread she baked, every sprout she tended, reminded her of the human who had changed her world. And then, one quiet evening, a ship appeared on the horizon, a sleek vessel, unlike any the aliens had seen. Its lights shone warmly against the purple sky, and as it descended, people stopped their work, their eyes wide with awe. Lyra's heart skipped a beat. She ran to the palace gates, her silver hair flowing behind her. Could it be? Had he truly returned? The ship landed gently in the courtyard. The ramp lowered, and there he was, Captain Ethan Cole. His uniform was worn, and his face showed the fatigue of long journeys, but his eyes still held that same gentle warmth that had captured her heart months ago. He stepped forward and looked at her. For a moment, neither spoke. The world seemed to hold its breath. You came back," Lyra whispered, her voice trembling. Ethan smiled softly. "I promised you, didn't I? Wherever hope was needed, I'd be there. And Zarathia, your people needed hope more than anyone." Tears welled in Lyra's eyes as she ran toward him. They stopped just short of touching, both afraid to break the fragile moment. Finally, she threw her arms around him. He held her tightly, and for the first time in months, she felt safe again. The alien king stepped forward, bowing his head. "Ethan Cole," he said slowly, "you left a mark on this kingdom that no one can forget. You came as a stranger, and became a legend." Ethan nodded humbly. "I only did what I could. The true credit belongs to your daughter. She took what I gave her and turned it into life for all of you." Lyra pulled back slightly, holding his hands. "Look around you, Ethan, the fields, the children, the bread. Everything you taught me, I shared. And my people are alive because of it, but I could never have done it without you." Ethan shook his head. "You did it, Lyra. I only lit the spark. You carried it to life." The princess smiled, her heart full. She took a small crate from the ship. Inside were golden wheat seeds, carefully preserved and adapted for her world. "I want you to see what we've done," she said. Together they walked to the fields. Ethan's eyes widened in amazement. The wheat swayed in the gentle wind. The herbs grew tall and strong, and small gardens of vegetables were bursting with life. Children ran toward him, offering freshly baked bread as thanks. He laughed, a sound full of joy. "You've done more than I could have ever imagined." Lyra looked up at him, her eyes glistening. "We did it together." That night, under the twin moons, the palace held a feast. Bread, soup, and pastries filled every table. Lyra stood beside Ethan, proud and happy. She realized that humanity had given more than food to her world. It had given hope, courage, and the belief that even the smallest acts of kindness could change everything. Ethan looked at the princess, a soft smile on his face. "Your people are strong. Your heart is stronger. I'm proud to see what you've built." And as the stars sparkled above the flourishing kingdom, Lyra knew one thing for certain. No matter how far across the galaxy, no matter how distant the stars, the bond between a human and an alien could change worlds and hearts forever. The kingdom of Zarathia had never been so alive. Fields of golden wheat swayed gently in the wind. Gardens overflowed with green herbs and vegetables, and the air was filled with the smell of freshly baked bread. Children laughed as they ran through the streets, their small hands carrying warm loaves to friends and neighbors. The famine that had once gripped the planet was nothing more than a memory. Princess Lyra stood at the palace balcony, her silver hair glowing in the light of the twin moons. Beside her was Captain Ethan Cole, the human who had changed her world forever. For months she had taught her people what he had shown her, the way a simple meal could heal more than just the body, the way kindness could give strength even in the darkest hours. And now, standing on the balcony, she realized something profound. It was not only the people who had grown stronger, it was her. Ethan looked out at the fields with awe, his eyes scanning the bustling life that now filled the kingdom. "You've done more than I ever dreamed," he said softly. "All of this? It's because of you," Lyra shook her head. "No, Ethan, you gave me the spark. You gave me hope when I had none. That spark grew into life because of what you taught me. The people, the fields, the bread. It's all your gift too." The alien king approached, his expression soft and full of pride. He had spent weeks watching his daughter guide her people, seeing the spark in her eyes return, seeing her laughter echo through the halls. He finally understood that the human had not been a threat to his daughter, but a teacher who had awakened something far more powerful than fear or control. "You were right, my child," the king said, his voice steady. "Strength is not only in power or command. Sometimes it is in love, in patience, in giving when you have little to give. Ethan has shown us that." Lyra turned to Ethan, her heart swelling with gratitude. "I wish you had stayed longer," she admitted quietly. Ethan smiled, placing a gentle hand over hers. "I never left, not really. I will always be here, in every loaf you bake, every field you plant, every child you feed. Humanity does not need to be present to inspire. It only needs to show the way once." That night, a grand feast was held in the palace courtyard. Humans, aliens, and all the people of Zarathia came together, sharing food, laughter, and stories of the dark days now behind them. Bread was passed from hand to hand, symbolizing the bond between worlds, the bridge that kindness had built. Lyra stood before her people, her heart full. "This bread," she said softly, holding a golden loaf for everyone to see, "is more than food. It is hope, it is courage. It is the proof that even the smallest kindness can change the world. A human came to us from across the stars and reminded us that life is stronger than despair, and that love is stronger than fear." The crowd erupted in applause and cheers, children clapping their small hands, adults wiping tears from their eyes. The stars above seemed to shine brighter, as if the universe itself was celebrating with them. Later, as the moon rose high, Lyra walked with Ethan to the palace garden, now filled with vibrant life. She picked a small stalk of wheat, turning it in her hands. "You changed everything," she whispered. Ethan bent slightly, meeting her gaze. "No, you changed everything. I only showed you the way. Humanity gave you the tools, but you built the world." For a long moment they stood together, looking at the kingdom that had been reborn. The wind whispered through the fields, carrying with it the promise of a future built not on fear or power, but on compassion, understanding, and hope. Lyra smiled softly, tears glimmering in her silver eyes. "Then promise me one thing," she said quietly. "Promise me that wherever you go, you will keep showing the universe what humans are capable of. Hope, courage, and kindness." Ethan nodded, his hand brushing hers. "I promise. Humanity will always leave a mark on the stars, just as it has on Zarathia." And as the twin moons bathed the kingdom in gentle light, Princess Lyra and Captain Ethan Cole stood side by side, knowing that the bond they had formed, between human and alien, hope and despair, kindness and survival, would never fade. In that moment, Zarathia learned a truth that would endure for generations. Sometimes, the greatest power in the universe is not strength or weaponry. It is the warmth of a shared meal, the courage to care, and the humanity that lives in every heart willing to make a difference. And on that world, long after famine and fear were forgotten, the people would always remember the human who showed them the taste of life, and the princess who carried that lesson into every home, every heart, and every field of golden wheat.